I'm Chris.
And I'm Kiley. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation.
All right, to start this episode, we have to do 3 deep breaths.
Can you lead us through that, Christopher?
You ready?
Yes.
Into the nose. Out through the mouth. Into the nose. Out through the mouth. Last one. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. You've now graduated. You're mindful.
Yay! In all seriousness, though, it is like a mental reset for your brain.
It is.
I hope you all feel calmer now. I know I do.
I do as well.
So now we can calmly talk about mindfulness.
We can.
Mindfulness, according to the Googler, is the state of being conscious or aware of something. It's a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting your feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations, and is used as a therapeutic technique. Have you thought of it as therapy before?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know that I use it in the gym and preparing for the gym and dealing with the injuries and issues I've had after that last competition. So,
how have you used it?
Understanding that I've had a little bit of a knee issue. It's holding a lot of water or fluid right now. I can't put a whole lot of pressure on it. I can walk just fine, do events and stuff, but I can't get down on both knees, put any pressure on it. Yoga the other day was hilarious. But being mindful of the injury and of my situation currently and where it came from just kind of gives me an understanding of, 1, how I heard it, 2, my expectations for the length of healing, and I can be a little bit more calm about the injury itself. I'm not freaking out. It's self-induced. So
it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think you also mentioned yoga, which is another form of mindfulness.
Yes.
You might not have even thought of that in your head.
No, not when I said it. But in the class, I like it a lot because it forces you to stop and just exist in the moment.
Yeah. And the beginning part of that definition was being conscious or aware of something, right? So you're just being aware of the current moment in space and time that you're in.
So we know how I think of mindfulness. How do you think of mindfulness? What do you think it is?
Being present. Just totally present. I don't even remember where I first heard it, but somebody said, be where your feet are. How often are we just rushing from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and you're in a meeting with somebody, and especially with the virtual world we're in today, it's so much easier for us to be distracted. On Zoom, it's so much easier to just do other things in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah.
Check emails, text messages. You can get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah, especially on Zoom.
Yeah.
There's only so much that the camera can see. So.
Right. So I think it's really important to physically and mentally be in the same place. If I'm in that Zoom meeting, I need to turn off all my distractions and be totally present so that I'm not missing something, and I'm also there, so why not give it my full attention? If I have to be there, I might as well be there.
Yeah. I think that goes back to the busy versus productive. A lot of people feel like if they're thinking about the future and grinding and focusing on the future and worrying about the past, their mind is filled with constant cycling, so they feel busy. They feel like they're being productive. The problem is, without being present and taking advantage of the things that are in front of you, and I know you love this word, paying homage to where you are and how you got there.
Time out. I think you love that word.
I do love that word because it's respect. You got to pay respect for where you are and that point in time and all the pieces that had to play together to get you there. And it also decreases your anxiety. You only get anxiety based on the things you don't know or dwelling on the past and how it might affect the future.
Yeah.
Mindfulness helps you step away from all that and just focus on where you are.
Well, and I think the important thing to remember is that the present moment is all we have. The past is gone, so why relive it? And we are not guaranteed the future. So all you have in this world is the present.
I tell the guys I lived with, one of my clients, Eric, every time he steps up to the bar, no matter what we're doing, I say the only thing that matters right now is this fucking rep. Only thing that matters. Your job, your kids, your wife, your home. He's building a house right now, so he's got a lot going on. He's probably also one of the busiest guys I've ever been around. His phone's constantly ringing. But to be able to be present in the weight room and present underneath the bar has transformed his training because it just nothing else matters except for that right there.
Well, and there's a lot of risk to not being present that maybe we don't even think about. But like I think about Eric in that situation. If he's not present, he could injure himself. It's not like he's lifting 5-pound dumbbells. He's usually lifting hundreds of pounds on a barbell, and he's got to be totally present. Otherwise, he risks injury. And you think about it, you risk your relationships too. Let's go back to the Zoom example. If you're not totally present in that Zoom meeting, you're running the risk that one, someone's going to notice. I, as a facilitator, I pay attention to where people's eyeballs are.
Yeah.
And don't be stupid. If you're wearing glasses, I can see in the reflection of the glasses if things are moving on the screen in front of you. So I can tell when people are not engaged with me, and when people are not engaged with me, I will bring attention to it. Because it's disrespectful, right? Of the person's time who is speaking. And your colleagues, let's say it's a team meeting and you're not totally present, you now are disrespecting everybody else's time in that room, and we could have a much more productive conversation. If you're not enjoying the conversation, then be a part of making it better. Don't just remove yourself mentally from the situation because you're going to disrupt your relationships. That's the risk we run if we're not totally present in our conversations with people, whether they're in person, whether they're virtual, whatever. You know, we want to be totally present and not distracted so that we can show them that we want to pay attention to what they have to say, and they potentially have something that we could learn from when they talk.
Well, I don't even think it's potentially. I think every single time you listen to somebody, you can learn something.
Absolutely, if you're looking for it.
I learn more from clients that have never been in the gym or a young man that I train just for personal development. I mean, I learn a lot from him, how he functions, how he works through things. I mean, he's super young, 14 years old. He doesn't do a whole lot of personal development. This is his first venture into it, but I learn a ton just because he asks such awesome questions. And if you're not paying attention to where you are, you're going to float right past that and think, what a dumb question. Why doesn't he know that? Instead of like, wow, that was a deep question. You know, why is the sky blue? What an awesome question. You know, yeah, I think if we're not present, we just miss so much gold in front of us.
Yeah. So why is mindfulness so hard? Why do you think it's hard?
My theory behind that is quiet tends to be the loudest thing in people's lives.
It's true. Silence is very loud.
It is, especially if you don't learn how to appreciate and love yourself. It's a skill. You have to learn how to love yourself.
Well, how does that connect to mindfulness?
Because you can't be present and okay in the quiet unless you like who you're with in the quiet.
Oh, shit.
Because you're with yourself.
Ooh.
And they never go away, right? I mean, how many people... I did a little interesting experiment. So I used to work at this small club, and we had...
What kind of club? Strip club? What are we talking here?
Like a fitness club.
Okay.
So not a strip club.
Just clarifying for our audience.
Reiterate, I did not work at a strip club ever. Anyways.
Although we don't judge those who have.
Yes. Right. Anyways, worked at this place, and we were all sitting in the back break room, and just it popped in my noggin, and I said, who in this room could sit at home alone in a room with no stimulus at all? That's phones, books, magazines, anything, television, radio, for 10 minutes. And everybody looked at me like I was fucking crazy. And everybody in that room said there's absolutely no way I would go nuts.
For 10 minutes?
10 minutes. And they're like, that would just be crazy. I could never do that. It's like, well, no wonder everybody in this room is just fraught with anxiety. They just cannot do anything. And the decisions they're making are just all over the map. It's like, you can't even be quiet with yourself. You don't even know how to communicate with yourself.
Yeah.
How are you going to function at all in society? It's just not possible.
I think I learned from a very young age how to be by myself. One, my parents got me, I think it was my dad actually, got me like 3 books on how to play solitaire. Like over 100 different versions of solitaire. So I knew how to play several different games, different types of solitaire games. So I was by myself a lot. My mom always said, if you're bored, it's your own fault. Because she did not want it to be her job to constantly entertain me. You know, she has shit she's got to do as a parent and running the household. And so I was left to my own devices a lot of the time. And so I played a lot of solitaire, sat by myself a lot. I talked to myself a lot, which is no surprise because, I mean, you live with me. I'm noisy most of the time.
It's okay. We both are.
Yeah, it's true. Never a quiet moment, really, between the two of us. But no, I learned from a very young age, and we also moved around a bunch. Chris and I both moved around a bunch as kids. And so I had a hard time making friends after moving so much. So I had to get used to being by myself because when I got to a new city, I didn't have any friends I could go hang out with. You know, it was a slow process making new friends every time we moved, but I spent a lot of time alone. So I think I've learned how to be okay with myself, but I absolutely can understand that mindfulness and meditation are hard concepts to grasp if you have a very busy brain.
Yeah, or if you've never even attempted to talk to yourself one-on-one, learn who you are, what you like, be okay with that, journal. Journaling's how I really got into being mindful about situations and processes and not argue with reality. I think that's really what mindfulness comes down to is just not arguing with reality. You are where you are. You can't be upset about it. You made the decisions or things happen in your life that have equaled your current position. But the cool part about the world is from right now on, it's your decision to make it better or sit and sulk. So, I mean, it's all personal responsibility. I think that's part of the reason it's scary for people to be quiet. It's because they don't have anybody to lie to. They don't have anybody to blame. It's just them. And they have nobody to convince of a story, nobody to tell their version of something to, because it's just all in their noggin. It's them and them.
Well, I think the cool part about any kind of mindfulness practice is it cultivates peace. Because once you are okay in stillness and in silence, you start to recognize that peace is right around the corner. It exists when there's not all the hustle and bustle distracting you from it. And so I think it's really important for us to be okay with stillness and just being.
It's hard to be, though, if you've never done it. So how do you get into that? That's an interesting question. How would you coach somebody into becoming more mindful?
Well, I have ideas on that, but before we get into that, I think we need to build a compelling case for why people should give a shit.
Ooh.
Because because I said so,
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And I asked why a lot as a kid and got a lot of because I said so's, and it never computed for me. I had to know why, because I'm not going to just arbitrarily do something because Chris and Kiley said so.
Well, once you understand you're an autonomous human, it's like, I don't really give a fuck if you said to do it. I need to know why, because then I can rationalize my actions.
Yeah.
Or future actions.
Yes. So do your own research, but there are lots and lots of scientific studies done that point back to mindfulness being extremely beneficial for our health and wellness. So why it matters. I'm going to run through a long list. Chris, at any point, stop me if you want to elaborate on any of these. 1, it helps us manage stress and decrease our anxiety because we have decreased cortisol levels. Anytime we can put our brain in this rest and digest mode and out of fight or flight, we can decrease our cortisol levels, and cortisol is stress. So if we have prolonged chronic stress, we now have heart health risks. So this actively works to increase your heart health levels.
It's like running a car on nitrous oxide over and over and over and over and over again. Those cortisol levels will kill you.
Yeah.
That's why we have heart failure, heart attacks. Yeah, all these other problems that come from just a constant level of stress.
And with that, you may experience chronic pain. So this helps with chronic pain. I also read plenty of case studies, people that had autoimmune disorders or cancer. By incorporating mindfulness and meditation into their daily routines, they were able to mitigate the pain that they experienced. It also decreases depression. It helps you sleep. There is improved emotional awareness and emotional regulation, so we're more in control of our feelings, which is why we have mindfulness situated inside of the Composure domain in our resilience model. It helps with cognitive function, so our brain in general. Improves our mood and our confidence. It increases empathy and compassion for others, which then in turn helps us develop relationships. And we have an improved immune response. So all sorts of benefits. And the best part is it costs you $0.
That's why it's not marketed.
I mean, there's people out there making money off of mindfulness and meditation, and they deserve the money because they're truly helping people change their lives. This is organic. It's free. It's accessible to everyone. And all you have to do is just sit still.
Well, it's interesting, too, because we live in a culture that wants quick fixes. We want something you can take now, not change your current habits, which I think is the funniest section to all fitness sales now is take X pill and don't change your diet and lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, look like a supermodel. Whatever it is, it never tells you to change your current lifestyle. The issue is your lifestyle is the problem. So changing your understanding of how the body functions, understanding that it's a defense mechanism, i.e. high stress, high anxiety, is high activity of your limbic brain and low activity of your prefrontal cortex or smart brain, i.e. the thing that makes smart decisions and accesses the rest of your brain and experiences. So it makes sense once you understand how the brain is working that the more mindful and calm you are and the more accepting of the reality that you're in, the less limbic brain activity and the more access to the rest of your noggin you have.
Okay, so I think this is so freaking cool. It actually changes your brain.
Yeah.
It increases the gray matter in areas of the brain that are involved in muscle control, memory, learning, empathy, and emotional control. It can slow down the effects of aging. So if you're out there getting Botox and trying to reduce your wrinkles, also incorporate some meditation. because it'll help you slow down those effects. MRI scans show that after 8 weeks of mindfulness practice, your amygdala shrinks, which is our fight or flight center in our limbic brain. So it's what alerts us to danger and tells us that, we have something to be fearful of. It actually shrinks that. So we have less threat detection happening. And it shows that the prefrontal cortex, aka our smart brain that Chris just talked about, becomes thicker. We actually get smarter.
Well, it's the same thing as training your muscles, right? You train your biceps over and over and over and over again, you're going to have real strong fucking biceps. That's just life. That's the way it works. Stimulus equals results.
Yeah.
And if you train your limbic system to be very active, i.e. I'm scared of everything all the time, I live in anxiety, that little part of your noggin is going to grow and become stronger.
You have to actively reduce, this is top down, brain regulation. You've got to actively reduce your stress. If you are feeling stressed out, burnt out, anxious, you've got to play an active role and take control over this for yourself, for your health. And when we do this, our primal responses to stress become superseded by more thoughtful responses. We don't freak the fuck out as much.
It's because you're training your brain to access the smart brain first. Hey, listen, I don't have to freak out about this.
Yeah, this is no big deal.
I'm okay with a little bit of stress because I can clearly see through the stress because I've trained my brain to not freak out. If you think about ER doctors, I always think they're really cool. I work with a couple of ER nurses and like really intense. I mean, people coming in with like gunshot wounds or like broken arms and legs, crazy stuff. And they're just totally fine with it. It's just another day in the office because they have learned to deal with the stimulus. That is really cool. That means it's possible. Again, I think the biggest issue with this is there is no magic pill because it's you. It's personal responsibility. You have to choose to go down this road.
Okay, so back to your previous question. How do we actually incorporate more mindfulness into our daily lives? We do a lot of things on a regular basis. Few examples, right? Our morning routine is our first opportunity to incorporate mindfulness into our day. I can tell you, aside from quitting alcohol, my morning routine was probably the second most impactful change I made in my daily routine that completely changed the game for me. So, just to reiterate, quit drinking alcohol is number one. Number two is I revamped my morning routine. I used to wake up with just barely enough time to get myself ready and out the door and to my first meeting on time. I was not early.
That's absolutely unacceptable to me.
Chris has a little more perfectionism in him than I do, but that's a story for a different day. But morning routine. So flip the switch. When Chris and I first started dating, we drink our coffee real slow in the morning and spend I don't know, just depending on the schedule, half hour to an hour just sitting on the couch talking or reading.
Yeah.
And we still do this. This is a habit we started together and a habit that we have continued our entire relationship because it is like our quality time, grounding time with each other. And it sets the tone for the entire day.
I think it's really important to start your day with control, right?
Yes.
Control and understanding that you make or break your day. If you wake up 2 minutes until you got to leave, you're throwing caution to the wind. You're not allowing for any external stimulus to change your day. You're not allowing for traffic, the old people in the roundabouts in Carmel that take forever and stop halfway through. You're not allowing for that. What you're doing is you're pigeonholing yourself into either happiness or anger. There's no middle ground. You're either happy because you made it on time or angry because you didn't. If you wake up with enough time, I have a French press that I absolutely love. I think you've used it, 3 times?
I'm not allowed to.
I love it. I want to have that control over the morning because it brings me a lot of like intrinsic value. I like starting the hot water. I have a little teapot that I start. I like the whole 3 scoops of coffee into the French press, the whole pattern of everything. I set the cups up the same way, same amount of creamer in yours and a sugar and the same amount of milk in mine. It's just very organized, but it starts my day with organization. And once you start your brain in a path, it's going to stay in that path easier throughout the day. I never liked writing all that much, but when I woke up in the morning and I would start my days in a pattern, I just introduced the pattern of starting to write, and I fell in love with it because it just was another pattern that I could step into. When I would wake up early or late, and I was running, I felt like all day long I was chasing my tail. I was 5 minutes, 10 minutes behind all day.
It sets the tone for the rest of your day.
Yeah.
So that was a big game changer. So that morning routine is super helpful. So just reflect on your morning routine. Are you getting out the door in a panic, or are you calmly getting to the first stop in your day? That's a big thing. Chris also mentioned journaling. Journaling is a big, we could probably do a whole episode on journaling. But what I will say is if you have not journaled before, or you've journaled and you're like, yeah, it's pointless, try as if journaling. So as if journaling was a technique introduced to me by Kevin Bailey when I did Dream Fuel's mindset course. And he adopted this, I think, from Hugh Jackman on a podcast. He talked about this.
Wolverine?
Yes,
Ooh.
he talked about this. I think it was on Ed Milet's podcast. I don't remember. I have the episode saved, so if anybody wants it, just holler at me and I'll send it to you. But Wolverine talked about as if journaling. So you journal as if the day is already over. And I will tell you a true story about how I as if journaled.
Uh-oh.
And it has to do with you.
That's why I said uh-oh.
I know. So I journaled one day about how I had a coffee meeting at this regular coffee shop that I go to. And I journaled about how I ran into a cute guy there. Well, the cute guy happened to be Chris. And then we were later set up on a date by mutual contact. And when I saw him, I was like, yep, that was the guy I saw in the coffee shop. So I journaled about running into a cute guy at the coffee shop. We didn't speak. I just saw him. And I was like, oh my gosh, this shit works.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't just do that with like random cute guys I'm trying to run into at the coffee shop.
Let's hope not.
There's only one. But now when I do it, I'll go through my upcoming week and I'll talk about like I had really productive conversations. Or if I know I have a really busy week, I'll say I maintained great energy levels all throughout the week. I put some sort of optimistic lens on whatever I've got coming up, and I write as if the day is already over, and I have basically gone through a visualization exercise, which then releases all of the emotions as if I'm going through those events and experiencing positive outcomes. It helps you manifest positive results all week long. And I don't do it anymore every day. I used to do it every single day when I was first practicing it. Now I do it once a week, and I journal as if my week is already over, and I talk about big highlights I experienced and the success in my business life or in my personal life, whatever it may be. And I just look at what's on my calendar and I think through, okay, how am I going to feel at the end of this week? And then I cultivate those feelings all throughout the week.
It's because your mind's going to look for what you tell it is the truth. So we've already talked about this at length on other previous episodes. But if you are apprehensive, scared, and frustrated, and you tell yourself there's going to be more apprehension, fear, and frustration this week, 100% is going to be all three of those things. But if you believe that good things are going to happen, you believe that you're worth investing in and you're worth having good things happen to, your brain is going to go, well, hell yeah, I'm excited about this just as much as I was focused on the negative. Exactly. It's focused on both just as much. So your as if journaling is just saying to the world, this is what I want in it. This is what I'm looking for. And your brain, with all of its phenomenal power, will use all of itself to find it.
So I would recommend as if journaling or journaling of any kind. There's so many prompts, journal prompts out there that you can get for free. Like, you don't have to spend money on journal prompts. You can get them for free and just start picking a question each day and writing a page about it, or spending 5 minutes writing. It doesn't have to be anything at length. And we're not suggesting you go implement all of these ideas tomorrow, because it's probably going to be a little bit much. But if one of these sounds like something that you could adopt into your routine, awesome. Just run with that and take baby steps. So we've got the morning routine. We've got journaling. Walking is a great one. And that doesn't mean walking and staring at your phone, checking your social media. That means walking and just enjoying the outdoors, being mindful of the scenery around you, what it smells like, what it feels like, the temperature on your skin, the things you're hearing, the rustling of leaves, things like that. Mindfulness is just totally being present. It doesn't mean multitasking. So walking is a great one. Quiet drives, that's another one. Just driving in silence. How often do we do that? I have some clients that will randomly tell me that they drive in silence, but for the most part, there's always music or a podcast you can put on, and it's just more noise, right? So if we're driving and it's mindful driving, it's just us being in silence and being okay with the silence. And if that drives you nuts, then put your music on, and that can be mindful as well. You're enjoying the music that you're listening to. Another thing, we do some, maybe I would say, like, out of the box things that I would categorize as mindfulness. We love the salt caves.
Yeah, those are really cool.
So halotherapy is a really cool salt therapy. They literally have like 20 tons of salt, like pink Himalayan salt that they've imported from the Middle East, and they build a cave. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a dark cave with salt everywhere around you. And it's meant to be a relaxing, like 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, your local salt cave has for you. And they probably have these in most major cities. But this is just quiet time for you to just breathe. And there's lots of respiratory benefits. So if you have asthma or any breathing issues, halotherapy is something that I would strongly suggest looking into. And then salt floats are also really cool. I know, Chris, you're claustrophobic.
Yeah, there's no way that's happening.
They do have, it's essentially like a warm salt bath, like salt water bath. And you float. The whole purpose of it is to feel like you are literally like floating on a cloud. And they have the temperature of the water at the same temperature as the air, which is also close to the same temperature as our bodies. So it's really relaxing. You float in this salt bath for an hour, and they do have closed ones that are a little bit claustrophobic. If that's not your thing, there are open ones that don't have lids. It's kind of like the cryogenic freezing that Dr. Evil goes into.
Dr. Evil. Austin Powers reference there.
So that's an option too. And then there's also a couple meditation centers that are here in Indianapolis. Other cities, I have to imagine, have meditation facilities. So we like to go to those every once in a while. Sound baths are incredible.
I think those are the shit. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
We're going to 2 next week.
I was super apprehensive at first. I thought this is going to be the goofiest shit I've ever done in my whole life. You were excited about it. You thought it was great. I'm like, man, this is going to be okay. It was wild. Absolutely wild. Every time I've gone to one, I've left and thought, that was awesome. It was totally worth it.
Explain what sound baths are.
So you can go on to Spotify and look up Tibetan bowls. It's a form of creating sound through crystal bowls.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily know how they do it. I'm always, close my eyes and lay down. I can't see what they're doing. But I think they take like a wooden stick and rub it around on the inside of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, it makes this really neat vibration at different pitches, depending on the bowls or what other instruments you're using. And you literally are bathed in sound. And everything in our system is based on energy and different energy waves. So sound is just an energy wave. So if you're looking to find a way to understand mindfulness in a way that you can feel it, because sometimes it gets a little woo-woo when you're like, I'm just going to sit in quiet and in silence and soak up my mind. It's like you have too much going on. I needed something that helped me understand mindfulness with physical feeling. And the sound bath, the more you lean into it and the more quiet you are in your head and the more you focus on clearing your thoughts, the more it overtakes you. And I felt like on my first sound bath, I was 4 feet off the ground floating. And when they would change the pitch, it was like my whole body vibrated. It was so wild.
Cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's totally worth it.
It's really awesome because when you're in those meditative states, your brain can just explore. It's like your imagination is invited to come out and play, and you come up with all sorts of cool creative ideas to maybe something that's been on your mind for a while, or you may just have like a vision come to you of what you want your future to look like. You have no idea what's going to come out, but energy is moving during all of these different types of activities, these mindfulness activities. So it's so cool. Once you get into it, it becomes addicting. You really want more and more of it. Like if I could have a sound bath every day, I would, because they're so calming. And I just feel like I've been reset after I come out of one of those.
I think it just allows my brain to just shut the hell up for a little bit.
Yeah.
I have so much going on. I've got 3 kids. We've got 2 crazy dogs. We have our relationship. There's some big things coming up in our life, some plans that need to be made. And my mind just goes a million miles an hour. But once you go into that and you learn how to be more mindful, you pay respect to the emotions of the decisions that need to be made, and you just put them to the side. You just move them out of there. You say, yes, that's going to be there when I leave. But right now, in this moment, I don't have to do anything.
Except breathe. That's it. Just focus on breathing.
Yeah, this 1 hour, I get to lay in pink Himalayan salt and just let my body exist. I don't owe anybody anything. For this 1 hour, it's just me in my head and being cool with the dude that I am, that lives in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that we do quite a bit of is yoga, specifically yin yoga, because yin is more of a meditative stretching type of yoga. And so highly recommend. You don't have to be super bendy or into yoga really to try out yin yoga. So I would highly recommend that. And then just put your phone away. Put your phone away. If you do anything after listening to this podcast episode, just take breaks from your phone. That is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves, because staring at that screen all day long comes with some pretty gnarly side effects, which we can talk about a different day. But that's another thing that's really helpful, is just to disconnect from the social world. And the one last thing that I would recommend is gratitude. Just start looking for more things to be grateful for. The more you appreciate what you have, the less you need additional things in your life. The more you have, the less you want, because you already appreciate what's right in front of you.
Well, then you get better at understanding all the things that had to come into play to allow you to do the things that you're doing. I got frustrated the other day having to park in a parking garage. I had to go up to the 3rd floor. And then I thought for a minute, and I'm like, how many people went in to creating this parking garage and building it? Well, then you can get even more in depth and say how many people went into making concrete and rebar and all these other things that went in, and organizing the structure of the construction team and the family that created the construction company that built this. And then now all the people that built my car and my ability to drive down here, to have this money, to make the money that I'm about to make. And if you do that just for 5 minutes, sometimes it's 5 seconds.
Well, and it makes your complaint about the 3rd floor of the parking garage seem so ridiculous.
Yeah. The 5 seconds of, okay, you go down that road, I should be very grateful. It's like, I'm laughing at myself for being frustrated that I have this much convenience.
Right.
Yeah.
So true. So what we would challenge you guys to do is take 10 minutes. Just start with 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day can make a big difference. Be where your feet are. Be mindful. Any of the ideas we talked about today, adopt one of them. You don't have to adopt all of them. We're just asking you to focus on 10 minutes a day doing one of these things for at least 8 weeks. Not 8 days, 8 weeks. You've got to get enough data to know if something's working. And then tune in to upcoming episodes. We're going to have some really cool guests on, our first guests.
Heck yeah.
I'm super excited. Who are experts on this topic. We're going to be talking about more mindfulness, meditation, and mind-body connection, as well as anxiety. So if any of these sound interesting, just keep tuning in. We're going to have some awesome experts on to talk more about this. And then, Chris, let's just explain really quickly, because we're nearing the end of the composure domain and we're going to be transitioning into the reasoning domain. What does mindfulness have to do with what we're going to be talking about next with reasoning?
If you're not okay with the person in your noggin, it's going to be really hard to rationalize why you do what you do and reason through things. You have to be cool with the guy living with you or the chick living in your head before you can reason through things, because that's the person making the decisions. I tell people all the time, treat yourself like a friend that you love. Because if you do not, you're going to have a lot of hate towards that person, and your reasoning is going to go down the toilet.
Yeah. And I also think that when we are emotional, I know this, we don't do our best thinking. So in order for us to have more emotional regulation, mindfulness is an essential skill to cultivate and develop and practice on a regular basis so that we can do our best creative, strategic thinking.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
So that's where we're headed.
I'm excited.
Come back for more. Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
And follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.